Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
You want to go to Elysium? Lux asked. Ampelos nodded. Yes. Why? Let's just say that it's time to go to greener pastures, if you know what I mean. The satyr flashed Lux a dashing smile, the sight of which gave the half-elf an urge to beat the crap out of him. When the satyr said that it wanted to go to greener pastures, it meant that it wanted to start its notoriety in Elysium, and this was something that Lux couldn't possibly agree to. He already knew how lustful these creatures were and the danger they could pose to the Elysians if they were given the opportunity to leave the abyss. I know what you are thinking, Ampelos said. Me and my men are now reformed. We will not do anything indecent when we get to Elysium. I promise. Haha. Do you think I was born yesterday? Lux sneered. You might behave for a day or two, maybe even a week, before your carnal urges go out of control. I can't possibly bring you back with me knowing how dangerous you guys are. Ampelos' smile stiffened after hearing Lux's reply. Clearly, the half-elf didn't trust them enough to let them go to Elysium with him. You reject our request to come with you to Elysium, but you didn't reject the succubi when they asked to go with you? Ampelos snorted. Double standards much? The succubi are different, Lux replied. Don't you know that thick thighs save lives? Bullsh *T. Ampelos scoffed. Both of us know that isn't the real reason why you agreed to bring them with you. Lux shrugged because he really didn't want to argue with the satyrs on this matter. Queen Rhiannon and him were now practically allies after everything they had gone through. Also, he didn't think that bringing the succubi to Elysium would pose any serious problems. The satyrs, however, were a different threat. These walking lechers needed to be neutered before the half-elf would agree to bring them back with him. While Ampelos was thinking of ways to convince Lux to bring him and his subordinates to Elysium, the land started to shake, which made them look in the direction of the portal that led to the 14th layer. Antero had just returned to the 13th layer, alongside Queen Rhiannon, and the two were making their way towards the Passion Palace, where everyone gathered. Lux and his people should have left a few hours ago, but since he made a promise to the succubus queen that he would wait for her, he put their plan on hold until her arrival. A few minutes later, the peerless beauty landed beside Lux and dragged him to the side to have a private talk. It's good that you kept your promise, Queen Rhiannon said. I thought you would already be gone by the time I arrived. Lux didn't reply to her right away and looked up at the beautiful queen who was looking back at him with a smile. Do you want to come to Elysium with me? Lux asked. Queen Rhiannon didn't expect the half-elf to invite her to go to Elysium, but the way he was looking at her made her realize that he wasn't joking, which warmed her heart. I would love to go, but I can't, Queen Rhiannon replied. There are still many things I need to do here in the abyss, and I can't possibly leave those who had decided to stay behind. Lux nodded, because he had already expected that her answer would be like that. It was just his wishful thinking that the succubus queen would agree to his invitation and leave everything behind. Queen Rhiannon saw the disappointment in Lux's eyes, but she pretended not to see it. Instead, she showed him a pearl necklace, which made the half-elf's eye widen in shock. Although it was faint, Lux could feel a strand of divinity within the white pearl that hung on the golden chain in front of him. This artifact is called Fortuna's Tears, Queen Rhiannon explained. Its ability is to prevent its wearer from getting bad luck. However, if the one who wears it is misfortune's beloved, its ability would only prevent her from spreading misfortune to other people. The downside is that her bad luck will still remain active, but it will only affect her. If you wish to take that girl, Aurora, with you to the surface world, this is the thing that you need the most. Without even waiting for Lux's reply, Queen Rhiannon handed the necklace to him, making the half-elf look at her gratefully. Thank you very much, Lux replied. This is exactly the thing I need. Don't mention it. Queen Rhiannon smiled. Lux lowered his head as he pondered something. After half a minute, he took out a small wooden box and handed it to the peerless beauty who had given him a priceless treasure. Open this after we leave, Lux stated. Whether you use it or not is up to you. Queen Rhiannon took the box from Lux's hand and held it in the palm of her hand. The two then stared at each other for a long time, their eyes swirling with emotions that they couldn't tell each other. Suddenly, This intimate moment was broken by someone clearing their throat, which made Lux and Queen Rhiannon glare at the person that disturbed them. Can we not come to a compromise? Ampelos asked. No offense, but I've been here in the abyss since I was born. I want to see how much bigger the world is out there. And Elysium seems to be a good place to spread my wings, if you know what I mean. Spread your wings, or spread your D*CK? Queen Rhiannon sneered. Look, my subordinates and I are willing to sign a soul contract, if that's what it would take for us to go to Elysium, Ampelos said with determination. As long as it doesn't touch our bottom line, like being neutered, we are willing to abide by its terms. Lux frowned before glancing at the beauty beside him. What do you think? Lux asked. Well, it's a soul contract, so you don't have to worry about them going back on their word, Queen Rhiannon shrugged. Who knows? They might even help you in the future. Although they are a rowdy bunch, they are excellent cannon fodder. Excellent vanguards during wars. Ampelos smiled and pretended that he didn't hear Queen Rhiannon's snarky remark. Okay, how about this, Lux stated. You guys are not allowed to force any women to do the deed with you using intimidation, violence, spells, or anything that will remove their free will. If you can woo them properly using the right method, then I won't bat an eye. The half-elf then glanced at Queen Rhiannon and asked her a question. Can you prevent them from siring any children while they are in Elysium? Lux asked. I don't think the Elysians are ready to see an influx in the satyr population in the upcoming years. Queen Rhiannon giggled and nodded her head. Sure, I can do that. I will ensure that they can't get anyone pregnant for the next 100 years. Wait, calm down. How about you lower it a bit to 10 years? Ampelos asked anxiously. 50 years. Queen Rhiannon smirked. 30. Ampelos bargained. 50. 40. 50. Fine, 50 years. One of the satyrs who was listening stepped up and asked a question. I understand that we cannot be rough with women, but how about men? The satyr asked. The corner of Lux's lips twitched after hearing the satyr's inquiry. To his surprise, almost all the satyrs were looking at him with a determined look on their faces, as if the answer to this question was a matter of life and death. Just as Lux was about to say no, an idea suddenly popped inside his head, which made him smile evilly. You are not allowed to be rough with men, but I will allow it if that person is a member of the divine army of light or twilight reign, Lux replied. As long as those people are affiliated with those factions, you can be rough with them as much as you want. Anything goes. But remember only the men, okay? You still need to treat the women with respect. Whoa! With the exception of Ampelos, all the satyrs cheered after they were given permission to screw the members of the Divine Army of Light, as well as Twilight Reign. Huh? Divine Army of Light? They sound strong. Do they have magical knights? Of course they do, Lux replied with a smile. They have thousands of them. Nice. The satyr gave Lux a thumbs up. You're not going back on your word, right? We can ahem them as much as we want, right? Knock yourself out. Lux gave him a thumbs up in return. The satyr then shook hands with Lux and gave him the thanks bro, you are a real man of culture look. Lux simply nodded his head and gave his blessings to the satyrs to make the lives of the divine army of light a living hell. Since they were already at each other's throats, he would not bat an eye if the satyrs screwed them thrice over. After agreeing to the details of the contract, all satyrs were then invited to join Lux's guild. Antero then swallowed the succubi and the satyrs inside its body to prevent the humans and dragonborns, who were waiting on the other side, to attack them. When everything was ready, Lux bid Queen Rhiannon his final goodbye, and the latter just nodded her head and waved at him. GAAP then took out a white marble and activated it. In the blink of an eye, a black hole appeared above their heads, sucking up everyone in its surroundings. A long sigh escaped the demigod's lips the moment the black hole disappeared. She then opened the small wooden box in her hand to see what Lux's farewell gift to her was. Sitting at the center of the box was a single white marble that would allow Queen Rhiannon to go to Elysium. Become strong, Lux, Queen Rhiannon said before closing the wooden box in her hand. I have high hopes for you. Also, please save my daughter, Aurora. I wasn't a good mother to her, and I hope that she can feel what a family is like when she's by your side. The peerless beauty then affectionately caressed her lower abdomen as she thought of the handsome half-elf who had returned to his own world, not knowing that he had left her another precious gift aside from the white marble in her possession. As Lux dried his hair with a towel, he looked at the two beautiful ladies who were lying on the bed, naked with a smile on their face. 2 days had passed since his return from the abyss, and many things had happened since then. First of all, not all the humans who were accidentally sucked into the abyss managed to make it back home. Some of them had been slain by the abyssal monsters, which was quite unfortunate because those that had entered the gate of the apocalypse were the elites of each faction. Even the Dragonborns had significant casualties on their side, leaving Picoro's face very dark when he took his people back to the Crystal Palace. A day after Lux's return, something happened to the domain of the fallen, which no one had foreseen. All the people who had come to conquer the domain of the fallen and the gate of the apocalypse were expelled from the domain. Not only that, the gate that served as its entrance vanished without a trace. This alarmed everyone, and many even believed that the half-elf had done something that made the gate disappear. The Skystead Alliance were the ones who brought up and spread this idea, and the Zinner War Pack followed suit. However, Picoro, who had been with Lux since the beginning, claimed that the half-elf was innocent, and what happened to the domain of the fallen had nothing to do with him. Since no one wanted to anger the Saint of the Crystal Palace, they held their tongue. But deep inside, they were still blaming the half-elf for what happened to the domain. The Six Kingdoms didn't say anything because they didn't want to anger the Saints who were on Lux's side, as well as their ally, which was the Zinner War Pact. In the end, Lux returned to Barbados Academy to rest for a few days before he returned to Agartha to complete the quest he'd started. Just when the half-elf had finished putting on his clothes, Kai stirred on the bed and looked at her surroundings in a daze. She was still half asleep, and it took her a while to recognize the half-elf who was smiling back at her. "Good morning, Kai," Lux said as he approached the bed and kissed his fiancée on her forehead. "Did you sleep well?" Kai replied before yawning. Her beautiful body looked more smooth and radiant than it had a few days ago. The same could be said to the blue-haired lady, who was still sleeping peacefully on the bed. After Lux returned to Barbados Academy, the first thing he did was to help Kai and Iris increase their ranks to D rank using the special method that Queen Rhiannon had taught him. What happened in the Gate of the Apocalypse made everyone realize that accidents could happen anytime and that they didn't have the liberty of choosing their opponents. This made everyone pursue the goal to become stronger in order to better protect themselves if a similar incident happened in the future. Right now, Lux was a C ranker. Although he had increased his rank by 1 stage, he was still far away from the true powerhouses of the world. He knew that he was only able to save his lovers due to the help of others, especially his master, JP, who had the Golem of Destruction and Tarot under his command. Without his help, fighting against a demigod like the Succubus Queen was pure suicide. "Are you going somewhere?" Kai asked as she looked at her fiancé, who was already fully dressed. Lux nodded. "I need to return to the guild headquarters for a bit to check the succubi and the satyrs. Although Garrett told me that they have been behaving, I would like to see it with my own eyes and make sure that everything is in order." "Okay, you do that." Kai smiled before kissing him on the cheek. "I'll wake up Iris, so we can take a bath and have breakfast together. Will you be back for lunch?" "I'll be back this evening," Lux replied. "The steward of the Crystal Palace wants to talk to me in private." After saying goodbye to his fiancée, Lux teleported to his guild headquarters to check if the denizens of the Abyss and his other guild members were getting along. Fortunately, the succubi and the satyrs were behaving themselves and even did their best to get along with everyone in the guild's headquarters. The abyssal creatures didn't have guilds or the likes. Because of this, they didn't have any idea of how famous Lux's guild was in both Elysium and Solais. The half-elf also told them that if anyone were to ask them what the name of their guild was, they must only answer Ars Goetia. Picoro had informed Lady Augustina about the newest members of Lux's guild, which was why he needed to meet with her in the Crystal Palace. Although the Dragonborn didn't say it outright, Cephas' uncle had concerns about the abyssal creatures who were now inside their territory. "So how are your sisters faring?" Lux asked the leader of the succubi, whom Queen Rhiannon had designated to be their temporary leader while they were in Elysium. Her name was Clover, and she was a mature beauty with long blue hair and a seductive body. She was the only one among the succubi who wore glasses, making her look like a very serious and competent person. The air here is very fresh, and the sky is very blue, Clover replied. I've heard many stories about Elysium, but I never expected it to be this beautiful. I wish my queen could see all of this. Clover sighed after she thought of her beloved queen, who had protected all of them for several decades on the 13th layer of the abyss. I wish she was here too, Lux said softly as he thought of the peerless beauty who had decided to stay in the abyss. After recalling the unspoken promise he and Queen Rhiannon made with each other, the half-elf smiled and continued his conversation with Clover. It's good to know that you are enjoying it here, Lux commented. If there is anything that you need, don't hesitate to tell Garrett or Emma if I'm not around. They are the ones who manage my guild headquarters whenever I am away. Clover nodded. Understood, but I'd like to ask you something about this guild of yours. The succubus adjusted her glasses as she looked at the half-elf with a solemn gaze. For some reason, I felt like I got stronger after arriving in Elysium, Clover stated. My sisters have also grown stronger, which means that this isn't an individual thing. When I asked Emma about it, she said that it was the effect of your guild buffs. She added that not all guilds in this world have this effect, and as far as she knows, only your guild has it. Can you tell me why you're the only one to have these so-called guild buffs? Sure, Lux answered. You see, the half-elf explained the concept of guilds to Clover, including the rank of each one. He also told her about the Adventurers Guild, which greatly captured her interest. After his explanation, the succubus asked if anyone could register in the guild headquarters to become an adventurer. Lux didn't know the answer to this question, so he taught Clover on how to use the guild chat and introduced her to Keelan, who was one of the branch guild masters of the Adventurers Guild in the Kingdom of Guelphin. Clover found the guild chat very interesting, so she shared the information with her sisters. Soon, the guild chat was flooded with messages as the succubi, who knew nothing about the world, began to ask questions, which his guild members were happy to answer. After making sure that there weren't any immediate concerns in his guild headquarters, Lux decided that it was time to meet with the steward of the Crystal Palace, who had been waiting for his arrival. Since the teleportation gate in Lux's guild headquarters was connected to the capital city of Rexariza, where the royal castle was located, it only took him a few minutes to arrive at his destination. Just as he was about to enter the royal gate, a flying carriage landed beside him. Lux threw the carriage a casual look and immediately froze after seeing a familiar face looking back at him from the carriage window. You! Lux and the lady shouted at the same time as they pointed at each other. A second later, the half-elf quickly took a step back and summoned his named creatures and covenant members, inwardly deciding whether he should fight or flee. While he was thinking of what to do, the carriage door opened, and a beautiful lady descended from its steps. I didn't think that we would meet again this soon, heretic, the Oracle of the Divine Army of Light said in a cold tone filled with killing intent. I still remember what you did to me that day, and I am very eager to repay the favor. Well, there's more where that came from, Lux replied. Do you want to experience it a second time? The two stared at each other before someone else walked out of the carriage and looked at the half-elf with contempt. You sure like to talk big, brat, the High King of Lunaria stated. Let's see if you get another chance to blow us up like you did last time. The High King of Lunaria was about to make his move when a sudden pressure descended on his body like a mountain, forcing him to kneel on the ground. A second later, a calm yet firm voice reached everyone's ears, making the Oracle of Light cease any attempt to seize the red-headed teenager that was in front of her. You are not in your divine empire, human. Act with proper manners, or I will teach them to you personally. The Oracle then faced the palace gate and gave a respectful bow to the steward of the Crystal Palace, who was standing on the opposite side. I apologize for my colleague's outburst, the Oracle said. It will not happen again, Your Excellency. As it should, Lady Augustina replied. There will not be a second time. Do you understand? Yes, Your Excellency. The Oracle nodded. Lady Augustina then released the pressure that pinned the King of Lunaria on the ground. Having been freed from the pressure, the saint rose up and bowed respectfully to the steward of the Crystal Palace. I apologize for my rudeness, the king of Lunaria stated. It will not happen again during our stay in your empire, your excellency. Very well. Lady Augustina nodded before shifting her gaze to the dragon prince standing beside her. Or, why don't you keep Lux company while I entertain our guests? As you command. Or replied with a smile before making a gesture to Lux to follow him. Lux glanced at the saints from the divine army of light before unsummoning his undead army. He then hurriedly walked through the gate without looking back at the saints, whose eyes followed him like wolves ready to go for the kill. If not for the fact that a supreme was paying close attention to them, they might have assassinated Lux there, and then, once the half-elf had safely gone inside the palace, Lady Augustina made a gesture for her guests to follow her. She already had an idea for the reason for their visit, but would still be better if she heard it from their lips. Meanwhile, inside Or's personal residence, "You don't have to worry about those saints anymore, Lux," Or said with a smile as he personally poured the half-elf some tea. "As long as you are within our territory, they will not dare to do anything out of place." "I know," Lux replied, "but I didn't expect them to come here personally after everything that happened back then." Or made a gesture for his servants to leave the two of them alone because he didn't want others to hear their conversation. Only when he was sure that they were really alone did the dragon prince look at the half-elf with a solemn expression on his face. "Actually, this is the second time that the Divine Army of Light has sent their representatives to meet with my aunt," Or explained. "The first time they came here, they didn't make any demands like to hand you over to them. If I remember correctly, their goal was to ask my aunt if she would be willing to assist them in closing an abyssal gate that had suddenly appeared in one of their affiliate kingdoms." "A gate from the abyss opened?" Lux arched an eyebrow. "When did that happen?" "The same day that the black hole that led to the abyss appeared in the gate of the apocalypse," Or replied. The frown on Lux's face deepened after hearing the dragon prince's answer. He would like to brush this off as a coincidence, but the timing was too perfect for him to ignore. "What happened? Did your aunt help them close the gate?" Lux asked, or nodded. She was not the only one who went. Even that fake dragon king showed up. The half-elf couldn't help but smile, because he was fully aware that the Crystal Palace didn't recognize the current dragon king as their true king. They would often refer to him as usurper, fake king, bastard, or scum. Clearly, they neither had love nor respect for the one who sat on the golden throne of Karshvar Draconis because they only recognized one king, and that was Kyoza. "So, the abyssal gate is closed and everything is over, right?" Lux inquired. "Yes," Or answered. "That's why I don't know why they are back." Truth be told, the half-elf was conflicted about whether he should rejoice or not that an abyssal gate had appeared within one of the affiliated kingdoms of the Divine Army of Light. While it was true that he hated them, he didn't want the ordinary citizens to suffer, especially after going to the abyss and coming to understand the balance of power there. If a bunch of demigods were to suddenly cross over from the other side, then another massive war would commence. What worried Lux was the fact that he was harboring succubi and satyrs, who had also come from the abyss. If the Divine Army caught word that he had smuggled these creatures over, there was a possibility that they would use this to start a blackening propaganda against him in order to get the people of Elysium to support their cause to exterminate him. "So you went to Agartha to help this girl, who bears the curse of misfortune's beloved?" Or asked. "Yes," Lux replied. "Her name is Aurora, and she is a very pitiful girl." "Aurora?" Or narrowed his eyes. "Is she beautiful?" "She is," Lux swiftly replied, although he was a bit taken aback, not expecting the dragon prince to ask him such a question. "I see." Or his tone suddenly turned cold. "Lucky her." "No, she's very unlucky. Didn't I just tell you that she is misfortune's beloved? What a lucky girl she is. Are you even listening to me?" Or ignored Lux's question and simply sipped his tea. When he finished his cup, he glanced at the half-elf and asked him another question. "So you rescued this girl named Aurora from the Pantheon of Exile?" Lux shook his head. "Something happened before I could do so, so I was forced to abandon my mission." "Does this something have to do with the black hole that appeared in the gate of the apocalypse?" "Yes. You see, my two fiancés were victims of that incident, and I decided to return as fast as I can in order to help rescue them from the abyss." A resounding crack reverberated inside the room as several cracks appeared in Or's teacup. Fortunately, it didn't break, and the dragon prince calmly returned it on top of the table before looking at the half-elf in disbelief. Fiancés? Or asked, "You are betrothed to two women?" Lux nodded. "Didn't you know?" "I didn't," Or replied. A few seconds later, Lux suddenly felt that the temperature of the room was getting lower, which made him wonder if Or's room had a hidden air conditioner somewhere. However, since Or asked him to share his stories, he decided to tell him about his adventures in the abyss. The more he told the dragon prince what happened, the colder the room got. "That queen is so ruthless. She triple X me, intending to absorb my powers and make my rank regress." Lux shook his head helplessly. She almost got her way. Fortunately, the situation was reversed, and I triple X'd her until she called me daddy. "I see," Or replied, and the table was suddenly covered by a layer of ice. Then what happened next? In the end, we negotiated with her, since we really don't have a way to fight against a demigod, Lux answered in a serious tone. "If we failed the negotiation, then I might have become one of her playthings, and one of my fiancés would have turned into a succubus. It was really a very dangerous gamble. So you managed to win the gamble and struck a deal with her. I don't know if I should praise you or congratulate you for reaching a compromise with a demigod. What happened next?" "We triple X some more until I could no longer do it. Aren't I amazing?" Scum. Or suddenly stood up and unleashed a dragon breath at Lux, turning him into a crystal statue. He then left the room in a bad mood and closed the door with a bang. A few seconds later, Lux broke free from the crystal that covered his body and looked at the destroyed door with confusion. He then picked up his teacup and drank all of its contents before placing it back on the table. Was that too stimulating for him? Lux scratched his head. Maybe dragons don't mature early. Inside the throne room of the Crystal Palace. "Your request is rejected," Lady Augustina said in a calm tone. "Lux is under my asylum, and as long as he is within my territory, you may touch him, but you must be able to bear the consequences." "And what if he is outside of your territory, Your Excellency?" the High King of Lunaria asked. "Does your protection extend outside of your borders?" "No," Lady Augustina replied. "Does that mean that if we try to capture him outside of your domain, you won't get in our way?" the oracle inquired. "That is correct," Lady Augustina answered. The oracle nodded. "Then we have an understanding, Your Excellency. As the representative of the Divine Army of Light, we will not attack the Lux von Kaiser inside your domain. However, if we spot him outside, we will not hesitate to make our move. I hope that you can abide by this agreement." "I am not his babysitter," Lady Augustina commented. "As long as you do not make any moves within my territory, you can do anything you want." The oracle and the High King of Lunaria exchanged glances and nodded at the same time. "Thank you for the clarification, Your Excellency," the oracle said. "We will no longer waste your time. Thank you for gracing us with your presence." The oracle and the High King bowed their heads respectfully before leaving the throne room with steady steps. Picoro, who was standing beside Lady Augustina, scoffed when the two saints were finally out of sight. "These humans are so annoying. Can't they just take a hint and not bother us again?" Lady Augustina smiled before glancing at the arrogant dragonborn beside her. "Diplomacy and politics are what prevents war from happening," Picoro, Lady Augustina commented. "But sometimes, those who have the power only wish to expand their domains or get better treatment from others. As much as I don't want to admit this, the Divine Army of Light also plays a crucial role in the world." Picoro snorted. "Are you talking about their Apostle Project? That blasphemous experiment to turn ordinary mortals into high-rankers and saints? They are going against the natural order of things, and the only excuse they can give is that it is for the greater good? Such rubbish." "Perhaps," Lady Augustina nodded. "But Picoro, you also felt it, didn't you? You can smell its stench again, right?" The arrogant dragonborn quieted down and simply crossed his arms over his chest. Lady Augustina leaned on her throne and sighed. "Every day, I can smell the stench of the abyss, and it is getting stronger. The last time this happened was over 100 years ago, and you already know what transpired during that time. The abyssal invasion, Picoro commented. Is this why you and that fake king have turned a blind eye to the divine army's blasphemous experiments? Lady Augustina closed her eyes. A few minutes of silence passed before she opened them again, and the word she said next made Picoro shut his mouth. We lost many supremes and demigods in the previous war, Lady Augustina said softly. And yet, the power of the abyss continues to grow. You've already been there and witnessed their power. Even if that succubus queen does not join the next war, she mentioned that the other abyssal lords would certainly make their move. Picoro, I'm afraid that if another war breaks out, all the races of this world will be unable to push them back, unlike what we had done over 100 years ago. Picoro no longer said anything and simply looked at the ceiling. After talking to the succubus queen during their stay in the abyss, the Dragonborn discovered that the current number of layers in the abyss was 666. However, Queen Rhiannon insisted that in another 100 years, another layer will appear, for that was the nature of the abyss, always expanding without end. According to her, there were hundreds of battle-ready demigods who were only waiting for an opportunity to cross over to their world. This didn't include the thousands of calamity-ranked monsters that lived within the deepest levels of the abyss. This was why Lady Augustina and the current Dragon King didn't hesitate to help close the abyssal gate that appeared within the territory of the Divine Army of Light. Their world wasn't ready yet for another invasion, and those who stood at the apex of Elysium believed that if another war were to break out, it would be their end. Lux sat opposite Lady Augustina as she sipped her tea in silence. After what happened in Or's room, and her meeting with the Divine Army of Light, the steward of the Crystal Palace felt like she needed a break, so she invited Lux to have an afternoon snack with her. Naturally, the half-elf accepted her invitation, even though he had just finished having tea with the Dragon Prince. Lux, you brought some interesting friends with you from the abyss, Lady Augustina said after placing her teacup back on the table. Do you have any idea what you have done? Am I going to be punished? Lux asked. Is that why you have called me here, Your Excellency? Punish you? No. But I'd like to remind you that not everyone likes having abyssal creatures near their doorstep. Picoro has already briefed me about your unusual relationship with the succubus queen. Although I don't approve of it, I'm willing to turn a blind eye. At least for now. Lux breathed a sigh of relief because he really thought that he had been summoned to the Crystal Palace to receive a punishment. Seeing the relief on his face, Lady Augustina shook her head helplessly before lightly tapping the table with her finger. Listen closely, Lux, Lady Augustina stated. I may approve of what you did, but others may not. Right now, the Elysians and the abyssal creatures are in a delicate balance. So, when you return, make sure to tell your succubi and satyrs to take human forms. Although high rankers and above will be able to identify them for what they truly are, the rest of the people don't need to know. Lux nodded his head in understanding. I understand, Your Excellency. I will tell them this when I return. Good. Now let's talk about other topics. Do you know why the Divine Army of Light appeared here today? Are they asking for help to close an abyssal gate? Lady Augustina arched an eyebrow. Did her tell you? Yes, Your Excellency, Lux replied. Lady Augustina nodded. Well, there is that too, but the real reason they came here was because of you. They want me to surrender you to them. The half-elf didn't say anything and simply waited for the steward's next words. He knew that Lady Augustina wouldn't surrender them to the Divine Army of Light because she had already agreed to grant them asylum in her territory. Naturally, I rejected their request, Lady Augustina stated. But I also promised them that I would not help you once you are outside of my borders. So, be extra careful when you go on your adventures. I'm fairly certain that they have already deployed their people outside of my domain. They are lying in wait for you to make a mistake and fall into their hands. Thank you for the reminder, Your Excellency, Lux said gratefully. I will be extra careful from now on. You do that. Lady Augustina smiled. Now, tell me, did you or get into an argument? I don't think so. Lux replied with uncertainty. I was just telling him about what happened in the abyss. Maybe my storytelling was too stimulating for him. Stimulating? Lady Augustina blinked. What did you tell him? Well, things. Lux smiled. But it's a guy thing. I'm sorry, Your Excellency, but I cannot share it with you. Lady Augustina chuckled because she was amused when Lux said that his conversation with or was a guy thing. But since she didn't want to ruin the atmosphere, she decided to just set it aside for now and just ask or about it when Lux returned to his guild headquarters. An hour later, Lux left the capital city of the Crystal Palace and returned to his guild headquarters. The first thing he did was relay Lady Augustina's request to the succubi and satyrs, which they accepted. For the most part, since the satyrs were already Daimos ranked and above monsters, they were able to take human forms if they wished. The succubi didn't need to change their appearance because they already looked like humans. All they needed to do was to remove their tails, wings, and horns, making them look like ordinary human ladies. But when the satyrs transformed themselves to handsome men, the half-elf wasn't able to stop himself from face-palming because these dashing Casanovas could easily seduce girls with their good looks. Fortunately, Lux had added a condition that they couldn't pursue any women for a year, with the exception of women belonging to the Divine Army of Light and members of Twilight Reign. Suddenly, the teleportation gate shone briefly and two people walked out of it. One was the dragonborn, Cephas, and the other was the half-elf, Gerhard. Lux, you're finally back. Cephas grinned as soon as he saw the half-elf. You won't believe how strong I've become. I'm already a D rank. The dragonborn's eyes widened in shock after he subconsciously assessed Lux's rank. He was in a hurry to return to their guild headquarters in order to boast about his achievements because he managed to become a D ranker before Gerhard. But after sensing Lux's current rank, the Dragonborn couldn't believe that the latter had increased his rank again in just a short period of time. Even Gerhard was surprised due to the half-elf's latest advancement, making him wonder what the latter did in Agartha. Why you're now a C ranker? Cephas stuttered. Since when? Since 3 days ago, Lux replied with a smug expression on his face. Hi, if you only knew what I've been through. I fought against a demigod and almost died. But the experience I got from fighting her allowed me to increase my rank once again. *T, Cephas cursed. I should have come along with you. Every time you go somewhere, you suddenly become strong. Just what kind of juice did you drink? Share them with me. Gerhard, who was listening from the side, was also interested in knowing this secret. If possible, he also wanted to drink the same juice that Lux was drinking, so that he could also become a D ranker and leave Cephas in the dust. Lux blinked a few times before averting his gaze. It's a bit complicated, so I can't tell you how I increase my rank. All I can say is that surpassing your limit will allow you to break through very fast. I'm telling you this from experience. Okay, I understand, Cephas nodded. This time, you will bring me wherever you go. Be honored, Lolander. This Cephas is willing to accompany your lowly self. What if I say no? Lux replied. I will not take no for an answer, Cephas insisted. Either you take me with you, or you take me with you. Lux scratched his head helplessly. Wow, clingy much. I'd like to go with you as well, Gerhard commented. I'm about to make my own breakthrough, and I believe that joining you on your adventure will allow me to grow faster. Gerhard and Cephas had been the recipients of incredible growth after joining Lux on his adventures. This belief was cemented when they challenged the sacred dungeon inside the domain of the Fallen, as well as their war against the Hakka dynasty in the past. Lux pondered a bit before reluctantly nodding his head. Since he had the means to smuggle his friends to Agartha, he didn't mind taking them with him to the Pantheon of Exile. After telling his friends that they would leave in 2 days, Lux went to a secluded area in the mountains surrounding his guild headquarters. There was something that he had realized during his stay in the Abyss, and that was having more powerful allies was better than having none. Because of this, he finally decided to use the dragon corpse that he had acquired long ago and merge it with the Calamity rank beast core that he was given to use after he became a high ranker.
Lux summoned the dragon corpse inside his bounty ring and used his skill, Animate Undead. You have chosen to revive an ancient dragon. Choose which group you plan to register this unique creature. Choice 1, Necromancer's Covenant. Choice 2, Undead Legion. Lux chose the first option because he planned to make the undead dragon a member of his covenant. After making his choice, several rows of text appeared in front of him once again. Choose between the two options for the revival of your undead creature. Choice 1. Revive the creature as Bone Dragon. Choice 2. Revive the creature using advanced customization. The half-elf didn't hesitate and chose the second option. Just like the other members of his covenant, he wished to pick the best option for his newest ally. Choose one of the options listed here. You may use resources to increase the chances of successfully creating the creature that you desire. Ancient Zombie Dragon, 100%. Ancient Bone Dragon, 90%. Ancient Spectre Dragon, 75%. Ancient Frost Wyrm, 60%. Ancient Phi Dragon, 45%. Ancient Dracolic, 1%. Lux's gaze landed on the last option, and he knew with every fiber of his being that this was the best option in the list. He didn't hesitate and used the Calamity Rank Beast Core to raise the chances of a successful summoning. To his surprise, the percentage of success rose drastically, making the half-elf's eyes widen in shock. Ancient Dracolic, 100%. What Lux didn't know was that the Calamity Ranked Beast Core that Vera had taken from the treasury of the Necromancer's ancestral lands belonged to a Dracolic. This was why the percentage instantly rose to a 100%, giving him a guaranteed successful summoning. Do you wish to summon Ancient Dracolic? Yes. No. He no longer hesitated, and chose yes. Immediately, the ancient dragon corpse in front of him was bathed in dark light, and a powerful gust of wind erupted from its center, threatening to blow the half-elf away. Lux held his ground and waited patiently for the revival of the ancient dragon that would become the newest member of his covenant. Suddenly, a loud draconic roar reverberated in the surroundings, catching everyone by surprise. Lady Augustina, who was currently talking to Orr, glanced to the north where Lux's guild headquarters was located. She had sensed an unbelievable power coming from that direction, which made her wonder what the half-elf was up to. I need to check on something, Orr, Lady Augustina said. Stay here in the palace, and don't come out until I tell you to. Yes, Aunt, Orr replied. Immediately, the steward of the Crystal Palace disappeared from Orr's room, and teleported to the peak of the mountain where Lux's guild headquarters was located. Her gaze landed on the malicious aura that was emanating in the distance and narrowed her eyes. Standing in front of the half-elf was a 15-meter-tall Dracolic, whose eyes glowed an eerie blue. It looked very much like a zombie dragon, but the half-elf knew that its power surpassed its undead brethren by several folds. As the half-elf and the Dracolic stared at each other, several rows of text appeared in front of him. Please give this creature a name, Avernus, Lux said firmly. Your name will be Avernus. The ancient Dracolic lowered its head, and looked at Lux with its malicious eyes. The half-elf and the dragon stared at each other for nearly a minute before the Dracolic snorted, and raised its head in an arrogant manner. I accept the name you have given me, the ancient Dracolic stated. From now on, I am Avernus. Avernus. From death's embrace, I rise with fire and bone. As Avernus, I claim my rightful throne. Ancient Dracolic. Hellbringer. Rating, SSR+++. Rank, Demigod World Boss, sealed. Current rank, Empreen World Boss. Health, 1,600,000,000, 1,600,000,000. Mana, 3,200,000,000, 3,200,000,000. Strength, 2,500,000. Intelligence, 2,000,000. Vitality, 1,000,000. Agility, 1,000,000. Dexterity, 1,000,000. Active skills, Dragon Breath, Epic. Undying Breath, Epic. Summon Undead Legion, Epic. Animate Undead, Epic. Draco Meteor, Epic. Death Seeker, Epic. Passive skills, Intimidation, Epic. Regeneration, Epic. Magical Resistance, Epic. Physical Resistance, Epic. Unique skills, Hellbringer, Herald of Death. Hellbringer summons the forces of Hell to fight by his side. Summons 10,000 Hellhounds. Summons 10,000 Hell Knights. Summons 10,000 Hell Revenants. Herald of Death. Increase the health of all allied creatures by 300%. Increase the attack of all allied creatures by 100%. Lux hissed after seeing Avernus information in his soulbook. He had expected that it was going to be a very strong monster, but he didn't expect that it would be this strong. All of its skills were devastating, and the funny thing was that its skill, Summon Undead Legion, was a game-changer. If Lux and his clones were to summon all of their undead monsters on the battlefield, Avernus would summon the same number as well. If Asmodeus and Aeakos clones were added to the mix, the ancient Dracolic would be able to summon the same number of monsters that they did, doubling Lux's forces instantly. Its Death Seeker ability, on the other hand, allowed it to target anything on the battlefield, including invisible creatures, as well as those who hid under the ground and high in the sky. Simply put, There was no place that any of its opponents could hide once it started its massacre. Not only that, it also had the Hellbringer ability, which allowed it to summon the forces of hell in the battlefield. While Lux didn't know how strong these creatures were, he was certain that the additional troops would definitely play a vital role in large-scale battles. Herald of Death gave all of Lux's summons, and his allies, an increase in their health and attack. These stat boosts were a great boon in the battlefield, allowing them to survive longer and hit harder. Suddenly, Lux felt someone land beside him. "Child, what have you done?" Lady Augustina said in horror. "Do you have any idea what you have done just now?" "I revived a very powerful undead dragon," Lux replied in an innocent tone. Lady Augustina's lips trembled. "Lux, you didn't just revive any ordinary dragon. You revived the long-lost brother of the previous Dragon King, who had gone missing over 100 years ago. Although not many know it, he had fought in Tarot to a draw, while waiting for reinforcements to arrive. The Abyssal War was very chaotic back then, and no one knew what happened to him. But, before he went missing, he managed to defeat 20 Abyssal demigods and their demonic legions on his own." Lux's mouth opened wide in disbelief after hearing Lady Augustina's revelation. He then looked up at the towering ancient Dracolic in front of him, and saw something similar to mischief in its burning blue eyes. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that the random dragon corpse that he collected in the past was the brother of the previous Dragon King, who had fought in Tarot to a draw before he went missing, more than a century ago.
Is he really the previous Dragon King's brother? Yes. Where did you find his corpse? Lady Augustina, would you believe me if I said we found him inside a cave on this floating island? The half-elf could feel beads of sweat starting to form in his forehead as the steward of the Crystal Palace looked at him with a steady gaze. It's true. My fiancée found the well-preserved body of a golden dragon in a cave when she was looking for treasures on this island, Lux replied. In fact, the body was so well-preserved that people would think that the golden dragon was just sleeping. But he was really dead when we found him. Lady Augustina could tell that Lux wasn't lying. Since that was the case, what he said had to be true. She then shifted her attention on the ancient Dracolic, who was looking down on them in arrogance. Understood, Lady Augustina said with a complicated look on her face. The majority of the previous king's family died in the Abyssal Wars. However, there are still a few of them that remain. They also have loyal retainers that might recognize his face, so be extra careful. Dragons don't like to have their dead bodies desecrated by necromancers. If someone asks you where you found the dragon corpse, tell them that you discovered it on an ancient battlefield or something. Lux nodded his head in understanding. He didn't really know that the dragon corpse that Kai found when she was exploring the floating island with Fei belonged to a member of the previous royal family. Your Excellency, do you think the current Dragon King will recognize him? Lux asked. Lady Augustina smiled and looked at the half-elf in amusement. What do you think? I think I will unsummon him now. Good idea. The half-elf hurriedly unsummoned the Dracolic, who was now starting to attract the attention of his guild members. I'm going back, Lux, Lady Augustina said. Remember, don't summon your Dracolic anywhere near those from Karshvar Draconis and the Crystal Palace, unless it is absolutely necessary. Any necromancer who revives dead dragons or dragonborns are frowned upon by our race. After saying those words, Lady Augustina disappeared and returned to the royal palace. She sincerely hoped that Lux would listen to her advice for his own good. When the Supreme was no longer around, he looked at his soul book in order to read the additional information about Avernus. Ancient Dracolic. Hellbringer. Rating: SSR+++. Rank: Demigod World Boss sealed. Current rank: Empyrean World Boss. Note: currently, Avernus is only of the Empyrean rank because your rank is not high enough to be able to command it at higher levels. Once you become a B ranker, Avernus will evolve into a Calamity-ranked world boss. Its demigod rank will only be unsealed once you become an S ranker. Lux pondered for a bit as he read the requirements for Avernus evolution. It reminded him of his Covenant member Shax. Back then, he was unable to command Shax because his rank was too low to contain its power. It's a good thing that Avernus isn't like Shax, Lux thought. He will be one of my trump cards against the divine army of light. Dragons were inherently stronger than humans, and a dragon that was also an Empyrean-ranked world boss was more than enough to contend against saints. After fully understanding what Avernus was capable of, the half-elf decided to find Aiko, who was currently being taught by Lillian how to awaken her true powers. The baby slime had always wanted to become strong. However, after the abyssal incident, her determination only became stronger. Because of this, Lux agreed to let the Wicked Queen Slime teach her the things she needed to know to awaken her bloodline. A few minutes later, he found the two inside the nursery, where the slime eggs were kept. When Lillian discovered that Lux was raising slimes inside his guild headquarters, her impression of him improved slightly. However, when Aiko took her to Leaf Village, which was now called Leaf Town, the Wicked Queen Slime thought that she had seen paradise. Nearly all the dwarves in Leaf Town had a slime as their beast companion. Because of this, Lillian had become more cordial to Lux and no longer looked down on him. The half-elf couldn't help but smile when he saw Lillian talking to Aiko, while other baby slimes were resting on her lap, shoulders, and head. If one didn't know that she was actually a calamity-rank monster, one might think that she was just a beautiful lady who had a fondness for baby slimes. Since Aiko had a very strong connection to Lux, she immediately sensed his presence and looked in his direction. "Pa!" Aiko called out to him before jumping into his embrace. "Good girl," Lux said as he patted Aiko's head, making the baby slime giggle. Lillian shook her head helplessly before making a gesture for Lux to come closer. "Have you thought about the thing I told you about?" Lillian asked. "Can you give me a little more time?" Lux replied, "At least until I finish my mission in Agartha." Lillian frowned before reluctantly nodding her head. "Fine." Lillian narrowed her eyes. "But the longer you delay this, the longer it will take for Aiko to unlock her true potential." The half-elf sighed internally before looking at the baby slime in his embrace. Lillian told him that Aiko's overdependence on him was preventing her from truly becoming a powerhouse. If he really wanted Aiko to be strong, they should separate for a period of time so that the baby slime could be more independent and sharpen her survival instincts. Truth be told, he didn't want Aiko to go on an adventure alone. But Lillian assured him that she would observe the baby slime from a safe distance and come to her rescue if her life was truly in danger. Naturally, he and Iris talked about this as well, and although she was worried about Aiko, she also believed that Lillian was right. Greenhouse flowers may bloom with precision, but wildflowers dance to the rhythm of nature's heart, Iris had said back then. Unlike greenhouse flowers, wildflowers are resilient. When it storms, they brave through the winds and pouring rain. When it snows, their roots nap under the earth and return the following spring. They're never truly defeated. I am like Aiko, well protected by Father, you, and my guild. I have never truly faced hardships before the abyssal incident. Because of this, I convinced Father to allow me to travel more in Elysium in order to brave the dangers and become truly strong. I no longer want to be a greenhouse flower who cannot face the dangers of the world on my own. Deep inside, Lux understood that Aiko was strong enough to become independent for a period of time. He was just reluctant to part with her because she had been with him ever since the baby slime was born. After Agartha, I will let you play on your own for a while, Lux thought as he patted the baby slime in his arms. I'll have King Leoric accompany you from afar as an added protection. After playing with Aiko for a while, Lux left the nursery and decided to take a stroll in the town at the base of the mountain. He had named this town Edia, and after a few months, it was finally taking shape. If not for the fact that several structures were damaged when the saints from the Divine Army of Light had attacked the floating island, the construction work would have been completed faster. Bentley, who was making sure that everything was in order, told Lux that they were nearing the completion of their project. Once they were done, they would assist him in building their gyrocopter army, which had been temporarily put on hold until the town's construction was finished. The satyrs and the succubi can live here once it is finished, Lux muttered. Lux's goal was to turn the floating island into a flying fortress that could travel anywhere in Elysium. They could only stay a year inside the territory of the Crystal Palace, so because of this, he was on a tight schedule. Once they left the protection of Lady Augustina, he would finally settle things with the Divine Army of Light and show them that he was no pushover. As he was returning to the guild headquarters, he saw his master standing near the teleportation gate waiting for him. "Lux, there is something that I need to tell you," JP said in a solemn tone. "Do you have a moment?" It was very rare for his master to have this kind of expression, and it made Lux wonder if something bad happened. Seeing his disciple's expression, JAP chuckled and motioned for the half-elf to take his hand. Lux obeyed, and a second later, they found themselves standing on the outskirts of the Necromancer's ancestral lands. "Master, why are we here?" Lux asked. "Do you need something in the ancestral lands?" "No," JAP replied. "I just brought you here to give you something." JAP took the necklace that hung on his neck off. It was a chain that had a ring hanging from its center, which had the symbol of Memento Mori. "You already know that my master, Hearswith, once belonged to Memento Mori," JP said as he looked at the ring fondly. "But after pursuing her passion to become a Heaven's Necromancer, she was excommunicated from the organization and wandered Elysium alone." JAP smiled, as if he recalled those memories that were very precious to him. Every member of Memento Mori passes this ring to their disciple once they have completed their training, JAP stated. "Just like my master, I am not a member of Memento Mori. Make no mistake, I hate them as well, but not as much as I hate the Divine Army of Light. We might not have been together for a long time, but I have nothing more to teach you. That's why it's time for you to inherit your Grandmaster's legacy, so accept this ring. Just remember this, we are not part of Memento Mori, but I'm sure that they are already aware of your existence. Although I can't say for certain, I believe that they will not harm you. So, keep this necklace as a good luck charm, so that our master's legacy will remain." The halfling handed the necklace to Lux with a smile. "Master, are you going somewhere?" Lux asked. He didn't accept the necklace right away, because he felt that the moment he did, JAP would disappear in his life. "I'm just going to go sightseeing in Elysium," JAP replied. "I've been running with Master all my life, then I got trapped in Zangrila. I haven't had the chance to see the world and enjoy its beauty and wonders. You're already strong enough to protect yourself, so I don't need to worry about your safety. Don't worry, I promise to visit you from time to time." The half-elf and the halfling stared at each as if trying to read each other's minds. After a few minutes of silence, Lux reluctantly took the necklace off his master's hands. "Thank you, Master," Lux said. "I'll keep it safe." JAP nodded. "Now let me tell you the function of my master's ring. It allows you to teleport to the ancestral lands. Not only that, it can also..." JAP told Lux the special abilities of the ring that he had passed on to him. When the halfling was sure that his disciple fully understood how to use his gift, he smiled and patted his waist. "Well then, I will be going now," JAP said. "I don't really like saying goodbyes, so let's part here, Lux. Make sure to keep yourself safe, okay?" Lux nodded. "I will, Master. Enjoy your travels, and be safe always." JAP smirked before waving his hand to create a portal in front of him. However, before he entered the portal, he turned back to say something very important to his disciple. "You told me once that your reason for coming to Elysium is to find a way to save your world, Solais, correct?" JAP asked. "Yes, Master," Lux replied. "Then listen well. Look for the Pillars of Eternity," JAP stated. "Once you find them all, you will find the solution to your problem. Good luck, Lux, and I pray that you will succeed in your endeavor." Without another word, the halfling entered the portal, leaving Lux behind, with his master's token in his disciple's hand.
"Pillars of Eternity," Lux silently repeated as he opened the Elysium compendium to search for information about the thing that his master had told him to look for. To his surprise, he did find something, and he read the information with a serious expression on his face. "Pillars of Eternity. In the boundless expanse of time, Eternity song, a sweet rhyme, no beginning, no final chime, endless, infinite, a wondrous climb, eternal moments, forever sublime." It was said that eternity was created by 5 pillars, which represented 5 virtues. The first of them was fortitude. Fortitude acts as the protector and pillar of other virtues, reinforcing their strength and ensuring their endurance. In the face of adversity and challenges, Fortitude helps individuals remain steadfast in upholding their principles and moral values, making it a fundamental cornerstone of virtuous living. The second pillar was justice. Justice. The first duty of society is justice. It emphasizes the importance of fairness and the unwavering commitment to ensuring that every individual receives what they rightfully deserve. Justice is about upholding the rights of others and treating them fairly, making it a cornerstone of ethical and moral principles in society. The third pillar was stability. Stability is not the absence of change, but the ability to adapt to it. True stability involves the capacity to remain steady and secure in the face of change and uncertainty. It reflects the ability to adapt, adjust, and maintain equilibrium while navigating the inevitable shifts and challenges that life presents. The fourth pillar was love. Love is not just something you feel, it's something you do. It emphasizes that love is not a mere passive emotion, but a conscious choice and action. True love involves demonstrating care, kindness, and commitment through your actions, showing that love is not defined by words alone, but by the way we treat and care for others. The last pillar was hope. Hope is the ability to see the light despite all the darkness around you. Hope is a resilient and ever-present force within the human soul, continuously inspiring and uplifting us, even in the absence of clear words or explanations. It emphasizes hope's unwavering nature and its ability to provide solace and motivation in times of darkness and uncertainty. Lux tried to search for more information about the Pillars of Eternity, but the Elysium Compendium showed him no other results. He might have a clue about how he could save Solais, but what he knew was only the tip of the iceberg. There has to be another way to look for answers, Lux thought. Suddenly, his eyes opened wide as an idea popped inside of his head. Acting on this impulse, he hurriedly went to the altar of the gods that was built behind their guild headquarters.
All of the denizens of Elysium believed in gods, so Bentley constructed an altar, assuming that Lux's guild members would need a place to commune with the gods during their times of great need. Lux was probably one of the handful of people in Elysium and Solais who was aware that the gods that people prayed to had long abandoned them. But there was an exception. Two exceptions, rather. The god of games and the god of gamblers. Among the gods who had once graced Elysium, only the two of them remained. They were even doing their best in the background to ensure that Solais would not be completely destroyed, and had sent their representative, Lux, to carry out this mission. I hope this works. Eiko, don't eat the sacrifice, Lux said before lightly patting the baby slime, who tagged along with him after seeing him return to the guild headquarters. Pa! The baby slime, who was already holding one of the cookies that Lux had offered on the altar as a sacrifice, tilted her head. I'll give you more cookies later. Don't eat these cookies, okay? Eiko reluctantly returned the cookie to the altar and jumped back to the top of her papa's head. The half-elf then pressed his palms together and offered a prayer, hoping that the two gods who look after him from the heavens would answer his call. I think this is the first time you have prayed to us, Lux. You should do this more often. A teasing voice reached Lux's ears, which made him open his eyes slowly. Standing in front of him was Ariel and Max, who were looking at him with smiles on their faces. I'm sorry. Lux apologized. I kind of forgot to pray because of the many things that have been happening lately. We forgive you, Max replied with a smug expression on his face. But make sure to pray to us often from now on, okay? Lux nodded. I'll do my best. So, do you have any questions for us? Ariel inquired. That's why you prayed to us, right? Yes, Lux answered. I am here to ask about the Pillars of Eternity. Also, why didn't the two of you tell me this important information long ago? It would have sped up my search for the key to save Solais from destruction. The reason we didn't tell you about the Pillars of Eternity, Max said, is because we can't. We need to obey certain rules that restrict us from spoon-feeding you information. Even now that you have stumbled upon the clue, we can't tell you everything that we know. Even so, we should still be able to give you enough information to let you have a good understanding about them. As to how you will find the Pillars of Eternity, even we do not know. Luck will play a part in it, certainly, but we believe that you will find them eventually. And you'll know that. Now, let me tell you what you need to know. The god of games then waved his hand, and 5 golden artifacts appeared in front of Lux. They were a lion figurine, a scale, an anchor, a heart-shaped locket, and a candle. These artifacts are the 5 Pillars of Eternity, Ariel explained. The lion figurine represents fortitude. The scale represents justice. The anchor represents stability. The heart-shaped locket represents love, and the candle represents hope. Once you gather these 5 artifacts, you will gain the authority of creation and destruction. Ariel closed his eyes, and the 5 golden artifacts circled around him, moving counterclockwise. If you wish to destroy the world, you can do it with the authority you would gain from these 5 artifacts, Ariel said softly. Likewise, if you wish to heal it, you can do so as well. Do you remember when we told you that we had sent other people to Solais as well? This was the era when the gods still hadn't abandoned Solais. The people they chose managed to gather the pillars of eternity, but something unexpected happened. One of the candidates tried to use them to become a god. Lux's eyes widened in shock after hearing this revelation. He had indeed been told that there had been some people summoned in Solais in the past, but aside from that vague piece of information, Ariel and Max hadn't elaborated much about it. When the gods abandoned the world, summoning these heroes no longer became possible. This was why Max and Ariel created a cannon to launch their chosen candidate from the celestial realm, forcefully allowing him to enter the world of Solais. Someone tried to use the pillars of eternity to become a god? Lux asked in disbelief. Ariel know that? Yes, and he almost succeeded. Max had an annoyed expression on his face, as if he was remembering something foul. You see, Lux, authority is a way to gain the power of faith, Max stated. Each god is born from the faith of the people, and the ability to control an entire world would have given him enough power of faith to ascend to godhood. Because of this, the gods rebelled, and a battle to reclaim the artifacts ensued. Unfortunately, their chosen champions lost to the one that had managed to steal all 5 artifacts. Just as his ritual of ascension was about to be completed, our dear friend, who was also the goddess of Solais, sacrificed her life in order to disrupt the ceremony. She succeeded, and the traitor hero was banished to the deepest layer of the abyss. Our friend died, and her soul was cursed as a consequence of her actions. She was fated to wander the 2 worlds, and every time she reincarnated, she suffered a fate worse than death. Max closed his eyes, and the pain of losing his dear friend could be seen in every fiber of his being. Even Ariel, who almost always had a carefree smile on his face, had a hurt expression on his face. Is this goddess currently living in Elysium or Solais as a mortal? Lux asked out of curiosity. She is in Elysium, Ariel replied, and suffering even as we speak. Also, one of the pillars of eternity is within her soul. She has kept it with her all this time in order to prevent the same incident from happening again. This is also why she is suffering. A goddess might be able to store the power of eternity in her body, but a mortal body is very fragile and unable to contain the power that is always present in her soul. Lux then glanced at the 2 gods in front of him with a determined expression on his face. Then can you tell me where she is? Lux pleaded. If we can find her, then I will be able to collect one of the pillars of eternity. Ariel and Max exchanged a glance before resolutely shaking their heads at the same time. As much as we want to end her suffering, we can't tell you where she is, Ariel stated. Lux, there is a chance that she will die if we intervene, and time is of the essence. If she dies because of our interference, there will not be a second chance to save Solais. Max sighed. You might have already felt it, haven't you? Solais doesn't have much time left. 3 years at the minimum, 6 at the maximum. If the 5 pillars are not gathered by then, Solais will cease to exist. Their only chance of survival is for all of them to migrate to Elysium, and that is our last resort. Lux felt as if the weight that he was carrying on his shoulders became heavier after Max's revelation. In less than 6 years, Solais would disappear if he failed to finish his mission. This made him feel bitter, because he really had no clue about where to search for the pillars of eternity. All I can tell you is that 2 of the 5 pillars are in their artifact form. Ariel hesitated a bit before imparting this information to Lux. Meaning, they might be in auctions, they might be sold by merchants, or you can stumble upon them by accident. The other 3 are harder to find because they are stored in people's soul. For them to appear, these people must undergo enlightenment, allowing them to summon these dormant powers hidden within their souls. Lux rubbed his face with both of his hands because his mission was harder than finding a needle in a sea of haystacks. There were countless people in both Elysium and Solais, and finding these three souls was nearly an impossible task. Even so, he refused to give up, so he asked the gods another question. Is there a way for me to determine who these people are? Lux asked. Like a detector or something? Anything that will alert me if that person is near? Actually, you will be able to... Stop, Max. We can't. Don't take this gamble. Ariel looked at his friend with a resigned expression. Max scratched his head before averting his gaze. After a few minutes of silence, Max spoke, and this time, it was Ariel's turn to look away. Lady Fate isn't always fair, but she is not always unfair, Max stated. Since she knows the reason why you were sent to Solais, she will present you with opportunities to find the pillars of eternity. Suddenly, the sound of lightning and thunder reverberated in the surroundings, and the domain where Lux, Ariel, and Max were started to shake. Cracks appeared in the dimension they were in, but after a few minutes of tension, the destruction came to a halt. You failed this gamble, Max, Ariel said bitterly. We almost... It's fine, didn't we survive? Max cut off Ariel's words before he could complete them. Barely survived. Still survived, so we're fine. It's just several cracks. Just don't do anything to make them bigger, and we'll be fine probably. Ariel rubbed his face with his palm before glancing at Lux with an apologetic face. Lux, remember that we said that you have 3 up to 6 years before Solais sends? Now it seems that you only have up to 4 years before everything goes kaboom, Ariel said before looking at his friend. Thank you, Max. You are a real pal. The god of gamblers cleared his throat before looking at Lux with a smile. Your time is running out, but before you go, allow me to give you a freebie. Max took out a cardboard box with an Amasoon sticker on it and handed it to Lux. I won cards against Ganesha, and as a prize, he gave me several sets of lucky underwear. Since these undergarments are for girls, I have no use for them. I'm pretty sure that you'll have a better use for them, especially where you are going. The god of gamblers then whispered something in Lux's ears that made the latter blush. A few of these underwear have slits in them, so if you're into that kind of thing, feel free to give it a go. Also, as the name implies, you might get lucky, or in your case, unlucky, because one shot is all it takes to make a little Lux, if you know what I mean. Max chuckled as he handed the cardboard box to Lux before giving him a gentle push, making the half-elf fall down from the sky. You will not be able to talk to us for a while because we are currently grounded, Max stated. Be safe, Lux, and no matter what happens, know that we are always on your side. Before Lux could even give his reply, the half-elf found himself kneeling on the ground, facing the altars of the gods, holding a cardboard box in his hands. Eiko, who was surprised that something appeared out of nowhere, jumped off her papa's head and opened the box. She then started to pick up the underwear inside it and threw them high in the air as if playing a game. Right at that moment, Emma and Garrett's 3 daughters, Leah, Emily, and Alexa, came inside the temple to pray. What they found inside made the 4 girls look at Lux in horror. A pink bra was hanging on the half-elf's head, while several other undergarments littered the ground. Lux blinked once then twice before giving the 4 girls an awkward smile. He knew that anything he said would cause a misunderstanding, so he just manned up and said what was already inside his head. Oh my, I wonder where all of these came from, Lux said as he lifted the bra off his head and placed it inside the cardboard box. It seems that the gods like my offering and sent me gifts in return. The 4 girls looked at him for a few seconds before exiting the room at the same time, leaving Lux and the giggling baby slime alone with their own thoughts. Eiko hummed happily as she sat atop the steering wheel of the bone ship, Octavius. After returning to Agartha, Lux, Eiko, and Lillian were instantly teleported to the Atlas stronghold, surprising Saintess Cleo and Commander Garen. They originally thought that the half-elf had perished after embarking on a journey toward the Pantheon of Exile, so they didn't expect to see him alive and well. They didn't get to ask Lux anything as he didn't waste any time with them, immediately heading to the beach to summon his bone ship. After that, He started to sail towards the Pantheon of Exile once again in order to complete his mission of meeting Aurora. Cephas and Gerhardt were also with them, and were currently on the deck of the ship playing cards with Lux. On the other hand, Lillian was watching Eiko with a smile as the baby slime hummed and jumped to move the steering wheel from time to time. I can't believe that there really is a kingdom under the ground, Gerhardt said as he picked a card from Lux's hand. A lowlander like you is truly ignorant, Cephas replied as he threw 2 cards on the pile in front of him. The kingdom of Agartha is one of the most ancient kingdoms in Elysium. They rarely go to the surface world, so those who are aware of its existence are few and far in between. The green-haired half-elf arched an eyebrow at the annoying dragonborn who liked to boast about him being the first to become a D-ranker between the two of them. Lux, on the other hand, picked one of the cards in Cephas' hand and frowned. I don't know what we are going to face in the Pantheon of Exile, but according to Lillian, it is a very dangerous place. Are you sure that you want to accompany me? You can still go back to guild headquarters, you know? Cephas snorted. And allow you to leave us in the dust? You wish. I won't miss an opportunity to become stronger. Gerhardt also nodded his head, which made Lux shake his head helplessly. Do what you want. Lux sighed before gazing in front of them. But it seems that we arrived at a bad time. Jet black clouds could be seen on the horizon, and the wind was starting to pick up as well. Lightning streaked into the sky, and the faint rumbling of thunder could be heard even though they were still a distance away from the storm. It will be best if you all stay inside my body during the storm, Lillian commented. That is an acid storm, and I doubt that you boys will be able to survive it. I can turn into a black demi-dragon that is immune to acid, Lux replied as he glanced at his 2 companions. I'll be just fine, but neither the 2 of you have this kind of protection. Gerhardt and Cephas exchanged glances with each other before looking at Lillian with anxious expressions on their faces. They already knew the beautiful woman's true identity, and being absorbed by her was something that gave them goosebumps. Seeing their expressions, Lillian just laughed before glancing in Eiko's direction. Fine, Lillian said. Let Eiko store you inside her body, then I can store Eiko inside my body. The half-elf and dragon-born favored this arrangement. While they still didn't trust Lillian, Eiko was someone that they could trust. After receiving their permission, Eiko swallowed the 2. After that, she reluctantly jumped towards her aunt so that the latter could keep her safe. As Lux, he transformed into his black demi-dragon form. As long as he was in this form, he wouldn't have to worry about the acid storm that could melt his skin. Asmodeus took control of the ship and navigated Octavius around the obstacles in their way. Since everyone aboard the ship was now immune to acid, they no longer had anything to worry about. Giant waves rocked the bone ship, threatening to capsize it on the stormy waters. Lightning flashed and thunder roared in the skies above, making Lux frown since his ears were very sensitive to loud sounds. As they endured the onslaught of nature, Lux noticed several creatures flying above their heads and circling the bone ship like vultures waiting for their prey to die. They were wraiths, which was one of the horrors that lived in the Purple Sea. None of these monsters dared to come close to the ship because they had sensed that Lillian was a calamity rank monster. However, that didn't stop them from observing the demi-dragon who were looking at them with great curiosity. King Leoric, can you tame these wraiths? Lux asked the Wraith King, who materialized beside him after his name was mentioned. I can, but they already belong to another Wraith King, King Leoric replied. Trying to tame the subordinates will definitely anger their leader. Should I do it? Lux pondered for a bit before nodding his head. Do it. Right now, he needed to increase the number of members belonging to his army in preparation for his eventual clash against the Divine Army of Light. Since wraiths were undead monsters, they would easily fit in with Lux's current army. King Leoric, who had gained Lux's permission, rose towards the sky and uttered a defiant roar. The wraiths who were circling the ship flinched before moving away from the bone ship, as if they feared Leoric's presence. A moment later, a loud whistling sound spread across the area as countless wraiths that hid in the storm clouds, as well as in the sea, gathered in front of the bone ship like a black wall made up of specters. Suddenly, this black wall parted, and a wraith significantly larger than the others appeared. This particular wraith wore white armor, and blue embers could be seen through its visor. A white crown nestled on its head, which identified him as the Wraith King that ruled the wraiths in the Purple Sea. The Wraith King opened its mouth, and a blood-curdling scream emerged from it. Lux, who heard the scream, blinked his eyes in confusion because he was certain that the voice he heard belonged to a woman. The half-elf then summoned his Elysium compendium to check whether his guess was correct, and the first few words that appeared in front of him confirmed his conjecture. In shadows deep, she holds her throne.
Wraith Queen, in shadows deep, she holds her throne. The Wraith Queen, in darkness known, a spectral grace, a haunting sight. She rules the night with silent might. Dreadnought ranked world boss, a Wraith Queen, Lux thought. This is the first time I've heard about it. The Wraith Queen and the Wraith King stared at each other for a few seconds before summoning their swords. A moment later, the two Dreadnought-ranked world bosses clashed, which resulted in a shower of sparks. As they fought each other for the right to rule the wraiths within the Purple Sea, every time they clashed, a metallic ring reverberated in the surroundings, while all the wraiths shrieked in enthusiasm as if cheering for their queen. To Lux's surprise, King Leoric was being pushed back by his opponent, which he didn't expect to happen. He thought that the powerful Wraith King could overpower the Wraith Queen and wrest control of her undead army, allowing them to become his new subordinates. Lillian, who was watching the battle, suddenly chuckled. The wicked Queen Slime understood what was happening, and only the half-elf didn't know the simple intricacies of the deadly dance that was being waged in the stormy sky. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.